Hi, Coach Carl Richard here, and here I'm talking about ball machines and how to use the ball machine and get the most out of your ball machine at your club. So I'm going to talk about specifically our ball machine, but ball machines come in various shapes. And so was my first ball machine. I unfortunately fell off a horse back in the day, and I dislocated the shoulder and I broke my arm, so I couldn't hit balls. So this ball machine helped me get through some tough times. So I used to wheel this ball machine out and hit balls at people and coach them verbally. So quite an interesting experience, but ball machines can be very helpful. There's also, this is a newer model, which is called a Lobster Elite. And this gives you various different spins. It gives you alternatives, but you've got to know how to use it. And if you look at the ball machine, just in the end, where the ball gets shot out, there's a little white little thing that you make adjustments on heights. You'll notice there's numbers. And on the other side in the control, they sometimes have a remote. You can control the speed and stuff like that. Now at the club that we have at JKST, we have a tennis tower, which typically in this picture, you see all those lots of balls up the front. Well, typically we do not fill it that much. We have an older machine, and so the turning turnstile does not really move when there's so many balls in the top tray. So be careful about putting too many balls in the top tray. A good position to put the ball machine would actually be near the tee, right in the middle of the service line. And you make sure that it goes over the net, but you don't want to have the ball machine shooting too fast, because a lot of injuries occur when the ball gets shot out very quickly. Not only that, but you try and hit it too hard, too flat. So typically what you want to do when you're using a ball machine is just get a high, nice and loopy like a ball, so you can really get underneath and practice repetition of what you want to work on. So that is the best position. Now, typically this is a picture from my old place, but we always have targets. Targets make it more fun. Okay, so we put a target. Don't want to hit the ball machine. Okay, it's not fun. It's not bad hitting the ball machine, but you don't want to be hitting the ball machine all the time. You want to be going for targets. So we used to turn tables upside down, but you can use cones, you can use hoppers, whatever the case may be, but try and use some targets. So you got a cross court target and you got a down the line target. That makes it more fun. Also, you'll notice on the ball machine, you notice I've got a cord there. You got to make sure that there's a power outlet, and you got to know where the power outlet is, and you got to make sure there's balls in the ball machine, and you got to make sure that power is working in that outlet. Okay, so always, if you're going to be using the ball machine at the club, always call ahead to find out how is the ball machine, is it working, does it have balls, what court I'm going to be using. These are the important things, and maybe if possible, ask them to get somebody to put the ball machine back to the court if you want. Ask them to roll it out to the court for you. Sometimes the wheels are quite delicate, and the turning, when you're rotating it side to side, that action, that rotor is very sensitive, so you got to be a bit careful how you move the ball machine. Now, the most important thing is the default starting settings. So the settings on the ball machine is very delicate. So here I've got the top wheel on the right is the ball speed, and that generally tells you how fast. Now here I've got 4, but at the club I would almost start it at 3.5, because our club ball speed, it really comes out really hard. Now the feeding rate, before you actually turn it on, make sure it's on 5 or 4, and that gives a nice fast reading rate. But you can test that. Sometimes our machine might be a little old, so you got to fiddle around and see what happens. But if you turn that, depending on how strong the motor is, it might be an issue. Do not use the oscillator yet. And I wouldn't be doing any spin yet. I'd keep it simple. I'd just keep it going, grinding at you, and just leave it as it is. There's an elevation thing where you change the elevation. So you turn on the ball machine and you find out where the ball is bouncing, and you change the elevation, how high it's going, by pushing the 2 buttons, which is pulling it up or down. Also remember, you can also roll the machine back or forward depending on where the ball is bouncing. Remember also that there is like a 8 to 10 second delay after turning on the power that the rotation would start. You'd hear the ball machine start up, the motor, but the rotation, the rotisserie, trying to get the balls dropping into the won't work until it's done. Remember, there's a few possible things that could go wrong with the ball machine. Now, first of all, do not have too many balls on top. If you have too many balls, they kind of block the rotating tray and it'd be an issue. Okay, sometimes the balls create little dams and the balls avoid the little rotating rotisserie so they don't drop down into them. That's also a possible problem. If everything shuts down, there is a fuse. If you look carefully on this default settings, you'll see that little white button on the bottom. There's a reset, and that's normally a fuse. So normally on the tennis towers there's a fuse. You'd push that. And sometimes what actually happens in the front of the machine, there is a place where the ball shoots out. Sometimes the ball is dropped down and it starts building up, so then the wheels won't turn because there's a ball already in the thing. Now make sure you've taken out the power, taken off the power. So I'd unplug it and then I put my hand in and take the ball out. Please be very careful about standing in front of that ball machine. But here I've left the default feeding rate, the default ball speed. Try it out, but please, whatever you do, do not crank it up to 10. Somebody can definitely get hurt. And please do not stand in front of that ball machine. It really shoots out fast. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll speak to you soon.